Hello and namaste, viewers. We are really happy to start our new series. It's called Born in the USA, America at 250. And our inaugural guest, our first guest in this series, is Mr. Nathan Singh. Welcome, Nathan.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I want to call you Mr. because you've just graduated from high school. You've done really well, almost at the top of the class. You had the highest marks. So you're also ready to vote, right? You're old enough to vote now.
Yeah.
Therefore, yeah, you're now a responsible citizen of this great republic. So, my first question to you was like, how do you feel about America's 250th birthday?
I definitely am a patriotic person, so I would say it's exciting to see everybody get together and celebrate America's birthday. I mean, just like any other year, it's really inspiring to look at everybody and watch them have such a good time on the 4th of July and just live it up and enjoy like what it is to be an American. I would say I just felt very patriotic like usual, like any other year. But yeah, I mean, it's super cool. Happy birthday to America.
Exactly. The interesting thing is that the US is the oldest democracy in the world, I mean, 1776, the signing of the Declaration of Independence was really a major milestone, you might say, in human political evolution itself, because this idea of, a government of the people, by the people, for the people was really very new at that time, because you had monarchies, you had empires, you had other forms of government, but this was really an experiment. And as you know from your history, the Declaration was signed in 1776, but it took till I guess 1783 before George Washington, was sworn in as the first president. So it was a long struggle, and therefore, what are your thoughts about being in a democracy in a free country, or do you just take it for granted?
No, I definitely don't take it for granted. I think that growing up, especially being half Indian, I've definitely had to always appreciate where I live. And I always try to understand how much privilege and blessings I have living here, how much freedoms I get to pursue. And not everybody in the world has that. So I try not to take it for granted. And if I do, I mean, I always try to humble myself and remember where I am.
Totally, totally. I mean, often what happens is if you're born in a free society, in a democracy, you're right. You just take it for granted, right? That you can say what you like, and you can read what you like, you can think what you like, as it were.
Right.
You can explore issues. But there are, for example, there is the other hyperpower. We don't need to name them, but you can't Google over that. They've got their own tightly controlled search engines. You
Mhm.
can't do a number of things you can do here. For example, you can't take a placard and stand outside to protest
Mhm.
against something you don't like about your own elected representatives. In other countries, you can't say anything against their religion, for example, or you can't say anything against the leader. So the world still is not entirely free. There are dictatorships, there are totalitarian regimes. So democracy, in a way, comes at a great cost also, because I mean, I don't know what you think, but this freedom can also be turned into a license. People say responsible things. There's so much disinformation, and on social media, do you worry about some of it? Do you find that there's a lot of falsehood also being peddled in the name of freedom, or do you think freedom is actually a very precious thing? So it comes with a great deal of responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that with freedom comes liability. So you're always going to have things like misinformation and lies being spread out there because people have the capability to do that. But I think that's kind of what's beautiful about freedom, as much as it is annoying and it's false. It is what's going to happen. And I think we kind of have to respect that because at the end of the day, it's one or the other. I mean, you have freedom and you have people who can educate themselves and find what's true and what's not true, or you have control. So, it really just kind of depends on what you are looking for. But I would say, like, at the end of the day, like, freedom does come with liability.
Absolutely. Liabilities as you said, responsibilities. So I just want to ask you, like, how have you tried to find out what's true? Like, what is your method? Like, how do you check whether, you know, also as young people, we have a lot of peer pressure. I remember when I was your age, I wanted to belong, I wanted to be one of the guys.
Mhm.
And then when you think differently from, say, your peer group, how do you handle that? And how do you find out for yourself what's true, what's not true, what's right, what's wrong?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, feeling left out can just make you want to believe in what everybody else is doing, and it can just influence your decisions. I would say when it comes to political things or people disagreeing, definitely just going back to the source and just reading what's correct. I mean, a lot of things that are controversial or people disagree on are just simply things that people just spread like misinformation about, like on the news or something, and it can just easily be figured out. Um, with with finding your place and trying to feel included and like speaking your mind, I would say that obviously there in my life, I have kind of shut my mouth if I wanted to feel included, but there just comes a point where you kind of get tired of always doing that, and you'll have the ability to speak your voice, and I think I've reached that point where I don't really care what other people think, and I'll just say what I'm thinking and speak my mind. So, I mean, it really depends on, what you want. What I wanted for a while was to feel included, but at I eventually just had to start doing what I believed in, and people will agree with you or disagree with you, and you just have to live by your truth.
Exactly. Wow, that's great. Of course, there's a nice way to disagree also, and I think you have the manners and the grace, because sometimes when we are young, we get abrasive. We may get into a really, sometimes it's good to have this argument, no holds barred, speak your mind. But usually it's much better to be polite and say, you know what, you're welcome to your view. There's no problem. I don't
Right.
want to force you, right? Whereas the other side, which you rightly said, the control societies where you are forced to conform and there are punishments for non-conformism,
Mhm.
which are very severe, right? And that can be troublesome, especially if they're managed by others, not necessarily your own group, but like by the state or by some political entity or by some authority, and that can be bad. I wanted to ask you a related question. You know that there are some countries, like say Australia, where they've actually banned social media for those under 16. Like you were 16 just a couple of years ago, I guess. So,
Mhm.
what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good idea or not such a good idea?
I think that's kinda similar to what they do here, like, you're not technically allowed to have social media under a certain age. I don't know if they ID you or they're a lot more stricter. I mean, here you can kinda just get away with it because you don't have to put your government ID in or anything, but I don't really know if I see a problem with that. I think that the youth and growing up, you should minimize the amount of stuff you are viewing online of other people as much as possible. I think I would have wished I had less time on social media and more time exploring things and exploring my curiosity within like the boundaries of my own home and my school and stuff rather than social media. So I don't think it's a really bad idea, but you can view it as a form of control, I guess. But I don't know if I really see it that way, especially if people are that young.
Exactly. So, obviously, self control is better than external control. But when
Yeah.
people are too young to decide, Especially, there have been some very serious, sort of very, should I say, life threatening cases on TikTok where people are encouraged as a dare to join these really risky games, or they've even committed suicide. Australia, Canada, UK, much of Europe, parts of Asia also are supposedly free, but there's no society as free as the US fundamentally. So, as a citizen of this country, what are your views or recommendations to people of your generation? How do you educate yourself when you're a young person? What do you do? Do you read? I mean, what do you think is a good way to become, a responsible citizen? If you were to tell your peer group,
Yeah, I would definitely say, read as much as you can, go back to, original sources, go to scientific studies if you're looking for, like, factual evidence, communicate with people who have been studying in fields for a long time, like professors, teachers, and also people who have lived experiences. If you're interested in history or any of that, like, sort of nature, you can always reach out or look it up, or I mean, there's so much on the internet, there's so much out there you can always discover. And also, if you're interested in something like niche, like you have a study you want to pursue, I would just say spend a lot of time researching and finding out what is true so you can further your studies into that subject.
that's good. Now, do you like to read yourself? Because a lot of young people don't like to read these days.
I do like to read. I definitely don't read as much as I would like to because obviously, I'm always on my phone and reading stuff on there. But I did used to be a really big bookworm. Um, so I do want to get back into it. I just don't really find the time to open a book, but I should.
Yes, I guess, I heard a famous professor at Stanford at the Hoover Institution talk about this, that ChatGPT shouldn't become a substitute for thinking, that young
Mhm.
people need to do things themselves.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yeah, because it can just become a lazy person's way to avoid coming to terms and grappling with issues. And citizenship is a serious thing, right? Freedoms, to safeguard freedoms, you have to develop that capability. Now, towards the end of this first episode, I want to ask you, like, how do you view your future? Do you feel optimistic? What are your plans, and what are your expectations, let's say, of your country? And what would you like to do for your country? Do you feel optimistic? Do you feel confident as you move to a stage when obviously you're going to go to college and prepare yourself for a career?
Mhm.
Do you feel optimistic about what the future has in store for you? Do you feel good about it? Or do you feel,
Yes,
oh gosh, future looks bleak, I don't know what I'm going to do, etc.?
yes, definitely. I finally figured out what I kind of wanted to do, and I think in America you have so many opportunities, and really the world is just your oyster. You can kind of do whatever you please. And there's so many, I mean, people like to think that there's not a lot of opportunities, but there really is. And yeah, I'm very excited to go to college and finally start my life, like just being an adult.
Yeah, so you don't feel, oh gosh, I mean, what am I going to do? You
No,
know,
not at all.
good. So but what are your expectations, of, say, from your country, from the US, like, say, 10 years down the road? And what do you think you can do for America?
I definitely think importantly, like when it comes to politics or anything, just voting and speaking my mind like anyone else should. I think it's really critical that we all kind of come together and we communicate, especially now. I think a lot of people have heavy disagreements over politics and stuff. So I think it's important that we just respectfully communicate and talk to each other. And my expectations from my country are to just remain being this free country that it is. I would never want to see anything less of that. I think we're very blessed, and I want to keep it that way. And
Yes, yes.
especially with
No, but don't you think America also is playing a leadership role in the world? Of course, I mean, it's not the main point is not being some big superpower, a muscle man. He-Man, not that sort of thing, but as a leader, and also the most prosperous country, the highest GDP. Do you want to contribute to that growth? Do you want to see America still doing well through innovation, hard work,
Yeah.
talent, nurturing talent, getting the best people,
Yeah.
so there is the idea as well as the ideal of America. And
Mhm.
of course, it's under attack. But I think you've put it very well that rather than getting polarized, you have to keep talking to all sides because there's no point being a divided republic, especially when, you look back to a glorious history of 250 years and you celebrate it.
Mhm.
So thank you for your thoughts, Nathan. We are going to continue our conversation. We'll see you soon. And
Okay.
viewers, if you like our, podcast, if you like our channel, do tell us and do subscribe and spread the word. We want to hear from you. Thank you and see you soon. Namaste.